Hello friends, how are you? Welcome to the Japan Study Center. Today we are going to see the chapter of geography and what is our topic today? Land, soil and vegetation resource in India. There is a most important chapter here of geography, land, soil, vegetation resource in India. But it's come to the first point is the most important here, land resource. There is a land resource. Land is a resource here. The land is our basic resource. You know that land is our basic resource. Throughout the history, we have driven most of our substance and much of our fuel, clothing, and shelter from the land. It is useful to be us as the source of food, as a place to the live, work, and play. There is most important here the source of land here, and it is a different role. It is a productivity or economics factor in agriculture, forestry, grazing, fishing, and mining. There is a most important point here, and it is considered as the foundation of social prestige, and it is a basis of the wealth and political power here. It has a many physical form like a mountain, hill, plain, lands and valley here. That is the most important here. Physically form like a mountain, hill, plain and lowlands and valley here. It is characterized by the climate from hot to cold and from humidity to their dry. Similarly, land support many kind of vegetation here. In a wider sense, land includes soil and topography along with the physical feature of a given location here. This is a context that the land is identified is closely with the natural environment. However, it is also is regarded as a space, situation, factor, or production, economical process, and consumption is a goods, property, and capital here. That is the most important here on here of physical or land. The next year, ability of arable land here. India is a well endowed with the cultivable land which has a long been a key factor in the country's social economical development. In a term of area, India ranks 7 in the world. You know that India ranks as 7 in the world. Well, their term of population is a rank second. Arable land is include a net sovereign area, a current follow to the other follow, and the land under tree crops. Arable's land is a cover a total area of 167 million hectare, which is a 51% of the total area of country. That is the most important here. Arable land is a cover a total area of 167 million hectare, which is the 51% of the total area of the country. However, the arable is a land-man ratio is not a favorable as in many other countries like Australia, Canada, Argentina, the USA, Chile, and Denmark and Mexico. Conventionally, their land-man ratio is more favorable in India than Japan. There is a Netherlands, is Egypt, United Kingdoms, Israel, and China. What is the land-man ratio? The land-man ratio is defined as the ratio between two habitable area and the total population of country. That is an important point here. The physical features in India are rice is a complex. The physical feature is India as a diverse and complex. And there are mountain, hill, plateaus, and plain which is a produce varied human response to the use of the land resources. About 30% of India as a surface area is covered by hills and mountains. These are either too steep or too cold for a cultivation. About 25% of this land is topographically usable, which is scattered is across the country. The plateau constitutes there is 28% of the total surface area, but only a quarter of this is a fit for a cultivation here. The quarter of this is a fit for the cultivation. The plant cover of 43% of the total area, any nearly 95 of it is suitable for cultivation. And considering there are difference in the proportions of surface area, and this allow use to be conclude, and that is making there is a country as a whole about two-thirds of the unable. That is important here. And moreover, soil topograph is a moisture and temperatures that is important determine the limits of cultivability, and the quality of the arable land is determined by these factors. As a result of this, half of the surface area is cultivated, and this proportion is one of the highest in the world. Here come in the box the most important point here. Note down your notebooks. There is an important point for the is a conclusion here. The land includes both soil and topograph with the physical feature of given location. It is also regarded as a space factor of productions in the economical process and consumption of goods, situation, properties, and capital here. The land management ratio is defined as the ratio between the habitable area and the total population of country. That is an important point here. A land man ratio in India is not a variable as in a many countries like Australia, Canada, Argentina, USA, Chile, and Denmark, and Mexico. Is a conversely there is a land man ratio is a more variable in their India than in the Japan, is the Netherlands, is Egypt, UK, Israel, and China here. The next important topic here, land use. There is the most important here, land used. Out of the total geographical area is a 328 million hectare. You know that the total geographical area in India is 328 million hectare. Land is utilization is static are available for a 305 million hectare only. The India has here static as a land utilization here of 305 million hectare only. The balance 23 million hectare remain unsurvivably and unstable, and there is relevant is static are given the table. There is a significance feature of land utilization are. There is the most important point here. A significance feature of the land utilization are there. The first here, high percentage of area suitable for cultivation. You know that there is important here, high percentage of area is suitable for the cultivation. And second here, a limited scope for the further extension of cultivation. The limited scope for a further extension of cultivation and there. And next here, a small area under posture adapted as a large is a bovine population here. These are also important. The here show the table. There is a most important here, a land utilization in India here. There is a category area in meters and hectare as a percentage of total reporting area here. Net swabbing area is a 142.40 is hectare, and there is a percentage of 46.30. A county fellow is there 13.70 is a 4% here. Other fellows here is a 9.70, and there is only here a 3%. Posture and groves here is a 15.40 here hectare is the only of 5% is only there. Uncultivable waste here 15%, 50 is a hectare, and there is a reporting area is a percentage here 4.70 here is the most important category show in this box. And next here a cultivation waste is also here done, but next is a sixth is not available for a cultivation. There are two types, barren and uncultivated land here. There is an uncultivated land is a 90.60% is a hectare, and percent is like there is 6.20% only. The land under is a non-arable use of 21.20 there is a hectare, and 8.60 is there a percentage. The forest part is occupied here of 68 hectare. 68 hectares is important here, and only 22% is a percentage occupied there. Is the total is the most important here. And this point is shown on the here's a pie chart. The land cultivation in India. There is the most important here. The maximum part is the net swaven area here show, and second here is the most important forest, and otherwise occupied to the other here. There is the most important is a pie chart given in your screen. Presently is a total is more than 40 million hectare of the land is not available for a cultivation. Is an important point here. 40 million hectare of land is not available for a cultivation area. Under this category has shown in the decline from a 50.7 million hectare in a 1960 to 61 to is a 40.8 million hectare in a 1990 is a 91. There has been to the marginal decline in the fallow land from 9.9 in the 1950 is a 51 to 7.5% in a 1990-91. Cultivable is a wastelands also a witness an appreciable decline of 34% between 1950 to 51 and 90 to 90 is 91. During 1950 to 51 and 1990 to 91, the net shown area is the witness is a notable increasing of about 20%. This area in 1950 to 51 was is a 118.7 million hectare, which is increased to the 142.4 million hectare in a 1990 is a 91. Only 4% of the net soil area are 41 to 7 million hectare. Produce two or more crop in a 90 to 91. Surprisingly, only 5% of the land is under permanent pasture and grazing in a country with a largest evolving population of the world. Land under non-agriculture use has increased with the accelerated growth in an economy. The process of industrialization and urbanization demand more land under to road, railways, airport, human settlement and industry not including hugs a multi-purpose dam. Extremely there on the limited total area all the cultural use of land must be accommodated. Actually, it is can be realized mainly at the cost of land under cultivation is agriculture. In 1950 to 51, the total area under non-agricultural use was 9.3 million hectare, which increasing to be 21.2 million hectare in a 90 to 91. Contrary to the generally believed, there a percentage of land under forest in one of the lowest in the world. Forest is occupied not more than 22% of the total geographically area of the country. Well, their world average is a 30%. According to the land use statistics area under a forest has increasing from the 4 million hectare in the 1950 to 51 to the 68 million hectare in the 1991. It is a much below their desired national goal of one third of the total area here. That is important. Thus, the land used in a dynamical process. The land used in a dynamical process, it has changed over time due to the number of factors including increasing of population, change in the cropping system and technology. As the various sector of the economical develop, there are may be a shift in the pattern of land use. However, there is a bulk of their land is a continue to be used for a rising of crops. With the unabated is a population growth, the pressure of population on arable land is bounded to be grow. Indeed, should be a matter of great national concern. Our next topic is the most important here, land problem. There is the most important here, the land problems here. Out of the total land area, as many as 175 million hectares suffer from the degradations. Important point. 175 million hectares suffer from a degradation. Land degradation is the causing or largely by soil erosion, but also by the water longings and the excessive of salinity. The most serious threat to be solved is posed by the deforestation. This is important here. The most serious threat to the soil is posed by deforestation. Heavy rainfall during the monsoon damages the soil. Heavy rainfall during the monsoon damages the soil. Steep slopes of encourage rapidly run off, leading to the soil erosion, especially on the southern slope of Himalayas and the western slope of the Western Ghat. You know that there is an important point that a steep slope of encourage rapidly is run off, leading to the soil erosion, especially on the southern slope of Himalaya and the western slope of the Western Ghats. The major protections of the Himalaya are prone to be landslide and erosion here. The major protein of the Himalayas are prone to be landslide and erosion. Bead erosion is a prevalent and Rajasthan. Gully erosion is a Chambal Valley. Chota Nagpur and Gujarat and some mountains in Punjab, Himalaya is a water longing and saltations which constitute their second major threat to the soil heavy already consume of 13 billion hectares and threatens many more. The land affected are mostly situated in the canal irrigated area. They have suffered because of the absence of adequate drainage. Land is also degraded due to the mining operation in many parts of country. The total land area is affected in about 80,000. That 80,000 hectares by mining. Urban is encouragement of good quality agricultural land is another problem by which the amount of land used for agriculture is steadily and declining. In other words, there is a tough competition between agriculture, urban, and industrial development here. There are a social conflicts that are arising out of the right to occupy and transfer of land. The 10 cultivators of face major or disincentives such as the fear of vacations, the insecurity of tenures, high rent, and the educators is a surplus to be invested. Land sellings law have not been implemented with the equator strictness. The next topic is the most important here, solution of land problem. There is a most important solution here, land problem according. That is the most important. To the deal with this problem, the country has adopted a twofold approach. The first here, physical and second here social. The physical is the reclamation of land is achieved through the chemical treatment of water logged soil and followed with the is a scientific rotation of crop. There is important here is a logged soil and flow with the scientific rotation of crop here. Similarly, land rendered is a useless by rivers action and river fall flood are also is recombinant after their necessary of fragment to restore their fertility and texture. The physical reclamation of this desert is a land is called for the most is a sustained efforts here. It requires introduction of suitable natural vegetation and canal or well irrigation or even both. It helps to be rise is a water table and social approach on the other hand is a reflected through the state regulation and aiming at the overall rural reconstruction. Promoting to the agriculture and its productivity is a particular or considerations of land holding is one of measure among many. It's a provide to the necessary motivation and empowerment of the teller by the conferring on him the right of land, tenure, and ownership. Element of social exploration and property is a removable example of centuries of landlord, and thus the regulations is used to be ensure of social justice. Remoted to the sensing, the data have shown that about 200 square kilometer of the Gulf of the Kucha has been covered by the sedimentation. The National Remote is a Sensing Agency has estimate is a 53 million hectare is a 60% as the best land in the country. Among the state, the highest incidence of wasteland is recorded in Jammu and Kashmir. There are 60% of followed by Rajasthan is a 38% and Sikkim and Himachal Pradesh 37% each and Gujarat here 17%. The government of India constituted their national is a Westland Development Board in 1985 with a view to be enhancing our productivity of Westland. It includes their programs of afforestation of 5 million hectares per year. India does not be have a storage of land, but land reform is a policy need to be reoriented for a further increasing of food production here. The most important point arrive here in the box, note down point here, this is conclusion here. The land use a dynamic process, it has changed over time due to a numbers of factors including increasing of population and change in the cropping system and technology. As a various sector of economical development, there may be a shift in the a pattern of land use. And second point is also important here. The major land problems include land degradation due to soil erosion, water logging, and sanitation. And mining is a operation and urban encroachment on good quality of agriculture land here. There is an important point here. India has adopted two way to development land here. First here, physical is a recombination of land and second here social is a land reform. There is a most important point here. The next important topic here, soil resource is the most important here. According to the chapter, the soil is defined as a upper layer of the earth composed of loose surface material. It is a mixture of many substances including endless variety of mineral, remnant of plant and animals. Water and air also here. It is the end of product of continues to the interaction between to the parents material and local climate. Plant and animals is an organism and elevations of land here. Since each of the element of various over space, soil also is referred from place to place. You know that there is an important point here. Since each of the element varies over to space, soil and also is differ from the place to place. Soil is an important segment of our ecosystem as it is a serve on is anchorage of the plant and source of nutrients. Thus, the oil is the seed, the mediums, and fundamental raw material for a plant growth. Though it is a relatives of fertility, it is a effect of man as economics, activity, and space, the density of our country. When the soil is a lost, property and culture are also lost here. Therefore, it is a valuable national and fundamental earth resource of the country here. The next important here, a map. There is the most important here. India is a soil types here. The Indian soil types is a mountain soil is a present of Jammu Kashmir side. There is a mountain area here. And alluvial soil is a present of Punjab, Delhi side, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar. There is the most important here alluvial soil. There is a very fertility soil here. And red soil is a present here or other side. There is the Karnataka side is the most important and latent soil is the Kerala side and Maharashtra is the some area here. And there is the last is important here. Soil there is the most important and there is important here a distribution for the all over India here. The next topic is the most important here, major soil types. There is the most important here, a major soil types here. The soil of the India are broadly divided into the following 6 types. There is important here. 6 types of here soil present here. The first of all here, alluvial soil. The alluvial soil is the most important. Alluvial soil is there is a most important of soil types of India. It is a cover the vast valley area of the Satluj, Ganga, Brahmaputra and fringes of the southern peninsula. It is a thing near of the presence of plateaus. The alluvial soil is occupies 64 million hectares of the most of fertile land. The soil vary from the sandy loams as a clay is the texture and are rich in the potassium but is deficient in the nitrogen and organic matter here. Generally, their color is varies from a gray to reddish brown. Their color to varies from gray to reddish brown. These soils are formed of deposit of silt and sand brought down by the rivers flowing from to the Himalaya and the Great Indian Plateau. Began to the young the soil luck profile development here and began to stimulate the productivity. Is this soil are most important from two point of view of Indian agriculture. You know that is an important point here. Beginner extremely is a productivity. These soil are most important from the point of view of Indian agriculture. Based on geographical considerations, this soil can be subdivided into two divisions. There is a divided here into two division. Is a Nios, is a aluminum, is a khadar, and the older aluminum is a bhangar. There is the most important point here. Soil divided into two division. The newer aluminum is a khadar and older aluminum is the bhangar. Both are different in the texture, chemical composition, and drainage is the capacity and fertility here. The newer aluminum is the light fibrous looms with a mixture of sand and salt. It is found in the river valley. There is a food plant and deltas. One other land hand there is older aluminum is lies on the interfluvials. There is a higher proportions of clay makes their soil sticks and drainage is the after often poor. Almost all the crops are growing on this soil here. All the crops are growing here. The next here, black soil means regular. That is the black soil is the most important here. The black soil are found mainly in the Deccan lava basins and cover a large part of Maharashtra, some part of Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh and a small part of Karnataka is Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. The soil are formed by degradation of volcanic blastic lava. There is an important here. The color of the soil is generally is black due to the presence of compound of aluminium and iron. The soil is locally there is the known as the levels which is extend roughly to be 64 million hectare. It is generally is a clay is a deep and has a low permeability and impregnable, but it is a depth varies from a place to place. It is a very thick in the lowland but very thin on the highlands. The most important characteristics of this soil are its ability to return is a moisture even during the dry season. The soil formed to wild is a cracks during to summer dew. To be moisture or loss and swell as becomes tricky when saturated. Thus the soil is aerated and oxidized to be deep labors which is a contribute to maintain its fertility. This continued to the fertility is variable in the area of low rainfall for a cotton cultivation even without irrigation. Other than cotton, this soil is variable for the cultivation of crop like a sugarcane, wheat, onions and fruits. The next year, red soil. Red soil is cover large part of the peninsular upland too in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Goa, Southeast Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Orissa, Chota Nagpur and Plateaus and is a Meghalaya Plateaus is important here. There is a in circle there are black cotton soil zone. There is the in circle of the black cotton soil zone. There is important here and they have a develop on the crystallized rock like granite, geysers and cover roughly 72 million hectares of the arable land. Iron compound are abundant is making their soil reddish in a color but they are deficient in organic matter. The red soil are generally less fertile and are not as important agriculturally as the black and alluvial soil, but the productivity and capacity can be arise through the irrigation and use of fertilizer. This soil is suitable for rice, knitted, maize, is a groundnut and tobacco and fruits. There is the most important for the agriculture, the red soil here. The next here, laterite is a soil that is most important here. The laterite soil are commonly found in the area of high altitude and heavy rainfall in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, Orissa, Assam, and Meghalaya, extending over to the 13 million hectare. There is the most important here. 13 million hectares is occupied by the lateral soil here, as it generally is a form under hot and humid is a climatic condition here. The laterites in the soil are particularly found on the high flat Eurasian surface in the area of a high and seasonal rainfall. Loss of nutrient by the accelerated is a leaching is the most common feature, which is a lender is the soil into fertiles. The pedal is a crust in an important feature of laterites, which is a formed due to the alternations of wet and dry periods. As a result of weathering, laterites is a become extremely hard. Thus, there is a characteristics include a complete chemical is a decomposition of the parent rock, complete leaching of the silica or reddish brown color and given by the oxidation of aluminium and iron and black of humus. The crop which is generally is grow a rice, mills, sugar cane on the lowland where there is a tropical plantation such as a rubber, coffee and tea on the upland. There is a most important soil here. There is a growth of rice, sugar cane and there is a rubber, coffee and tea. The next here, desert soil. Desert soil is also important. The desert soil occurred in the western Rajasthan. Is a Saurashtra and Kutch is the western Haryana and southern Punjab. There is the most important area here. The occurrence of this soil is related to their desert and semi-desertic condition and is defined by the absence of water availability for 6 months. The soil is sandy to the gravelly with a poor organic matter and low humus content. If frequently rainfall, low moisture and long drought is the season. The soil is exhibited to the poorly developed horizon and plants are widely spaced. Is a chemical weathering is limited. The color of the soil is either red or light brown. Generally, this soil is a lack of basic requirement for agriculture. But when the water is available, variety of crop like cotton, rice, wheat, etc. can be grown with the proper doses of fertilizer. The next here mountain soil. There is an important here mountain soil. The mountain soil are complex and extremely varied. The soil is very prone to the deep albuminum in the river basin and lower slopes to be highly immature, residual gravelly on the higher altitudes. Because of complex topographics and geology is a vegetation and climatic condition. No large area of homogeneous soil and the group are found. Area of the steppe is relief are mostly devoid of soil here. The various types of crops are growing in a different region like rice in a valley or corded on the slope and the potato is almost all area. There is the most important soil is the mountain soil here. The next important topic arrive here, soil erosion. Soil erosion is the most important here. Soil erosion is described as the carrying away of soil. It is the theft of the soil by natural elements like water, wind, glacier and wave. There is an important here, natural element like water, winds and glacier and wave. Gravity tends to be move soil down slope either very slow as in a soil creeps are very rapidly as a landslides. The present shape of the land has been covered through there are thousands of years. You know that there is important. There is a present shape of the land has been to covered through their thousands of years. Soil erosion has become now one of the major environmental problems and a serious constraint for agriculture production. There are many physical and social factors which determine the extent and severity of soil erosion here. The principle of physical factors are erosivity of rainfall, irregularity of soil, severity of periodical flood, length and steepness of slope. The important social factors are deforestation and overgrazing natures of the land use and the method of cultivation here. The ravenous is a glaciers and landslide are most serious and highly visible form of the land erosion here. On the other hand, seed erosion caused by the rain and erosion due to the winds are listed as a visible but equal serious as the two take a heavier toll of our precursors to top of soil. So erosion is a ravenous and glaciers is a whispered in India. It has been estimated that 3.67 million hectares of the soil surface of damage. There are four major areas of rains and the glaciers in India. There are the Yamuna, Chambal rains zones, Gujarat Ravens zone, there are Punjab, Shivalik foothills zone and the Chota Nagpur zone. There is the other area of substantially is the Raven as the erosion is the Manandis Valley. Manandis Valley is the upper son of valley, upper Narmada and Tapti Valley, Shivalik and Bhavar tracts of the western Himalaya foothill and edges of Ganga Khadar is the western Uttar Pradesh. The relatives is a less effective area are west of Deccan, south of Godavari. There is a Ganga Brahmaputra plain. The eastern of Varanasi, Kutch and the western Rajasthan and sea erosion is spread over to the sloping deforested strain of untraces as the uplands and peninsular region as Satluj, Ganga plain and coastal plain and western Ghat and northern Stan Hill that is important. The occurrence of is a landslide is a common in the earthquake. Sensitive belt is a particularly the Shivaliks. Heavy rainfall and cutting of slope of road, building and mining of active treasure of landslide. In the last 50 years, the Rajasthan desert has encouraged upon to the 13,000 hectares of land is Rajasthan. There is an important here 13,000 hectares of land is Rajasthan and Gujarat, Haryana and Uttar Pradesh is a glacial erosion is limited to high is a Himalayas and sea erosion is confined to the coastal as area only. The soil erosion and soil exhibitions is due to be loss of soil nutrients and pose of serious threat to be over referred to the increasing the productivity of soil faster than to population of growth. So our next topic is important here soil conservation. There is a most important here soil conservation here. The method by which is a soil is prevented from to begin is irradiated to the constitute of soil conservation here. If the soil is wasted or blown away, it is not easy to the is replaces it, and therefore the most important step of soil conservation is to hold the soil in place. This is possible by improved to the agriculture practice in a different regions here. The contours is a plunging and tracing are generally is a practiced on the hill slope. They are the simplest is a conservation of method. The rows of trees are shattered, belt are planted to the protect the fill in a desert region from the winds erosions here. Afforestation of the catchment is areas and the slope in the Himalayas, the upper, the Madars Valley in Jharkhand and Nilgiri Hill in their south has been implemented. It reduces the surface runoff of the wind and there is a soil. Ravines are noted from there is a enormous size and depth with the vertically sides. The central Soil Conservation Board has been established of three resource stations. The three resource station is important here. Kota in Rajasthan, Agra in Uttar Pradesh, and Vashad in Gujarat to be suggested method of reclamation of ravens lands. Overgrazing by the sheep, goat, and other livestock has been to partly responsible for a soil erosion. Erosion due to this is a factor has been reported from Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Rajasthan and Karnataka. Soil exhibition can be prevented by application of manure and fertilizers here. The next important point in the box, there is the most important notable here point, note your notebook. The first point here, the six major types of soil found in the India available: black, red, laterals, and desert and mountain soil. There is the most important six major types of soil found in the India here. And the next here, both physical and social factor causing a soil erosion. Both physical and social factor causing a soil erosion. The physical factors are erodibility of rainfall, erodibility of soil, severity of periodical flood, and length and steepness of slope. The soil factors are deforestation, overgrazing, and nature of land use and method of cultivation here. And the next point also important here, major form of soil erosion are ravenance, gullies, landslide, and sheet erosion here. The next year, contours is a plunging, tracing, planting of shelter, and belt is a afforestation and checking of overgrazing, and application of manure and fertilizer are the method of soil conservation here. Our next topic is the most important here, natural vegetation in India. There is natural vegetation in India. There is the most important topic arrive here. The assemblage of the plant species, example tree, shrub, grasses, creepers, and climber, and the like of living associations with one another is given to the environment is known as the natural vegetation. You know that what is the natural vegetation here? The assemblage of plant species, example trees, shrubs, grasses, creepers, and climbers, and like a livings in association with one another in a given environment is known as a natural vegetation. And contrary to this, a forest is generated a large tract covered by trees and shrubs, which has an economical significance for us. Thus, a forest has a different connotations than that our natural vegetation has. There is an important. The variation in the climatic condition in India have resulted in having various types of natural vegetation in different part of country. It is so because each plant need us define is a range of temperature and precipitation for its growth. This justify the growth of tropical evergreen vegetation in confined mainly to be a western Ghat on account of hot and wet climatic condition. The same is true for a temperate evergreen vegetation of northeast India and turning arid or semi-arid vegetation of Rajasthan, desert and adjoining area. Discussion of vegetation grow in a central part of India owing to the moderate climatic condition and prevailing over there. There is important. The important here, major vegetation type here. There's an important point here. The major vegetation types here. Natural vegetation covered in India is generally divided under flowing head. The first here, most tropical evergreen and semi-evergreen vegetation. And second here, most tropical discussion vegetation, and next year dry tropical vegetation, and next year tidal vegetation and mountain vegetation. There is a most important part here are types of vegetation here. The first is here most tropical evergreen vegetation. The most tropical evergreen vegetation here is the moisture. There are the tropical rainforests which are further divided into two subtypes on the basis of their characteristics as under. The first here, the bad tropical evergreen vegetation. The bad tropical evergreen vegetation is found in the regions of very high annual rainfall exceeding 300 centimeters, with a very dry season, and southern part of western Ghat of Kerala and Karnataka are very bad. The northern eastern hills are now for these types of vegetation. It is a resemble their equatorial vegetation, and this type of vegetation cover has been to the badly depleted due to a cover the cutting of trees. The major characteristics of this type of vegetation are here the important. The first year, these forests are dense and have a lofty evergreen trees, often as high as 60 meters and above. The second here, the number of vegetal species per unit area is too large to export it them to commercially. That is important. The number of vegetals is a species per unit area is too large to export it them is a commercially. And the next year, Mahagolis and Chenona is a bamboos and plums are tropical species of plants found in this forest. The undergrowth is very dense and thick. A grass is almost absent. And the next year, the wood of these trees is very hard and heavy to work with. The next year, most tropical semi-evergreen vegetation is the most tropical semi-evergreen vegetation is found between two wet evergreen vegetation and most tough prey discussion vegetation. And these types of vegetation is found on the Meghalaya plateaus and Sardis and Andaman and Nicobar Island. This vegetation is confined to the area receive annual rainfall of about 250 to 300 centimeter. There is important here rain for the animal, and it is important characteristics are here. The vegetation cover is less dense than the wet evergreen forest. The timber of this forest is a fine texture and of the good quality. There is an important point. A timber of this forest is a fine textured and of a good quality. And the next year, rosewoods, annie and tesul are important tree in the Sardis, champas and junes and the Gurunjan and the Assam is a Meghalaya and ironwoods. Emboning and the layers grow in the other region. And the next year, shifting agriculture and our exploitations of forest have depleted this is a visitors cover to a great extent. The next year, most tropically discussion vegetation here. There is an important here, most tropical discussions as a vegetation, and this is the most well spread vegetals cover of India. And this type of vegetation is found in the area receiving annual rainfall of 100 to 200 centimeter. That is important. There is annual rainfall received here 100 to 200 centimeter, and this include the Sardis is the northern eastern plateau of Peninsula and the Himalayan foothill in their Sivalik, the Bhavar and Teria. The important characteristics of this vegetation are here, and the tree said it there is a leaves once in a year in a dry season. And the next year, this is a tropically monsoon vegetation consisting of large number of commercially important species than the evergreen forest here. The next year, teak, sal and sandwood, senam, can and bamboo are important tree of this forest here. And the large scale cutting of tree for timber has depleted this forest is hopelessly. The next year, dry tropical vegetation here. Dry tropical vegetation, and this type of vegetation is divided into two groups as under. First year, dry tropical discusses vegetation. First year, dry tropical vegetation is discussing vegetation here is found in the regions receive annual rainfall between 70 to 100 centimeter. You know that the important rainfall here are 70 to 100 centimeter, and these regions include a part of Uttar Pradesh, northern and western Madhya Pradesh, part of Gujarat, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu also. This area experiences a long dry season and a moderate rainfall limited at a best to 4 months here. And there are important characteristics of this vegetation is important here. What is the characteristics here? The first characteristics here, a sketch of open grass are most common between group of trees, and teaks is the dominant tree of this type of vegetation here. And the next year, the trees said it theirs live during their long dry season. And next types here, dry tropically turning vegetation. It is important vegetation here. The vegetation is found in an area receive annual rainfall less than 70 centimeter, and this area includes the northern and northern western part of India and the leeward side of Sahararis, the important characteristics of these types of vegetation are the important vasta, poor choruses, grassland are interspersed with the widely spaced tree and bushes. And second here is Asiacis, Aprobius and the cactus, etc. are two representative of this type of vegetation. Wild plants and spiny and turning variety are also found here and there. They're important. And next year, the next year, tidal vegetation here. The tidal vegetation, this type of vegetation grow up mainly in a deltaic region of Ganga, Manadis and Godavari and Krishna, which are flooded by tides and high sea waves. The mangrove is the representative of this type of vegetation. You know that the mangroves is the representative of this type of vegetation. Sundari is a typically trees of is a tidal forest. Sundari is a tropical tree of tidal forest. It is found in the abundance in the lower Ganga delta of West Bengal, and this is the reason why it is popularly known as a Sundarban. It is known for it is a hard and durable timber. There is the most important part here, Sundarban here. The mountain vegetation. There is the next important point here, the mountain vegetation. Due to difference in the temperature and other weather condition of the northern and peninsular mountain ranges, there exists difference in the vegetal cover of these two groups of mountain ranges. Another there is a mountain vegetation can be classified as the mountain or vegetation of peninsular plateaus and the mountain vegetation of the Himalayan range. There is important here. And then first point, according to the mountain vegetation here, the mountain vegetation of peninsula plateaus. The high altitude area of the plateaus region include Nilgiris, is Anamalis and Palinin Hill and Mahaswara in the Western Ghat, Satpura and the Malka Hill. The important characteristics of vegetation of this region are here. The first characteristics here are a sketch of the open rolling grass is a planning with the underdevelopment forest or brushes are found. The bed temperate forests below to the 1,500 meters are less dense than those found above this height. And the forests have a thick undergrowth, epiphytes and mosses are Ferencia. And the Mongolia is laurel, Yemen and common trees. And the next year, the Sinocona and the Ecotopus as had been introduced to the from outside the country. The next year, the mountain vegetation of the Himalayan range. That is important. The mountain vegetation of the Himalayan range. In the Himalayan mountain range, the vegetation is different at increasing altitudes, and this can be divided into the following types. The first year, most tropically discussion forests are found along to the foothill in the Sivaliks up to the height of 1,000 meters, and we have already learned about this forest. And there is a wet temperate evergreen forest are found in the area the lining between 1,000 to 3,000 meter. The important characteristics of this forest are these are the very thick forest of the lofty tree. Oka and the Chenat are the predominant tree of the eastern Himalayan region, while the cheers and pine are in the western part here. And Sal is the important tree in the lower altitude. And next year, Devdar, silver fir and the scarecrows are predominant is a tree between two height of 2,000 and 3,000 meters. And these forests are less dense as a compare to be forest at a lesser elevations. There is an important point here. And these forests are of the great economical importance to the local population. And next point here, dry temperate vegetation is found on the higher hill slope of this mountain region and which has a moderate temperature and rainfall between 70 centimeter and 100 centimeter between. And important characteristics of this type of vegetation are here. This vegetation resembles the Mediterranean's vegetation, and while olives is a Acacia are the important tree along with the hard courses and thick is a savanna grass. And oaks and devdar are found there and here. That's important. And the fourth point is the alpine vegetation found between to the altitude 3000 and 4000 meters. Their vitamins are important here, and the important characteristic of this forest are these are far less dense and silver for juniper, birches, and pine and rhododendrons and are important trees of this forest here. However, all of them have only a standard growth here. Alpine is a posture are found at a still higher altitudes, and the trees get up progressively is a stunted as they is approach the snow lines. There is important here. Here show the most important map on your screen. There is a natural vegetation of India. The natural vegetation of India is the first is a point here Himalaya vegetation. Himalaya vegetation is mostly found of the Himalayan region, Jammu Kashmir and the other side. And secondly, here tropical discussion forest here is found to the all over India, but mainly is the Karnataka. There is the Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, it is a Calcutta and other side. This is the most important here show in your screen. And Thorns forest here is mainly show of here are Rajasthan side and Gujarat and some part of the center of India here. And here Tedder's forest here is a maximum find out of Calcutta side. And the tropical is a evergreen forest is a found here. The other side of Kerala side and some part of Maharashtra. There is important for the Indian vegetation.